Anyway, I realized I just now didn't cut my microphone up. Technical difficulties. I need a button or something. But anyway, what I said before, if you couldn't hear me a minute ago, was, sorry, long day. I came across this chapter that I have been editing in my book, and it's called I Am Still His Mother, right? Because I know when you lose a kid, people think that you're not still a mother. And that's one of the hardest parts, right? Because you still are, right? Them not being here doesn't make you any less of a mother to your child. So I'm going to read this chapter, so bear with me while I pull it up, and then we just read through it, okay? All right, so bear with me 1 second. It says, I am still his mother. The first morning after I lost Kody from this earth, I opened my eyes, and I was still his mother. That is one of the cruelest things about waking up. Everyone around me had changed, but nothing inside me knew how to stop being his mama. 23 years of loving Kody, watching him, worrying about him, and knowing him were still in me. There was not just no Kody here for any of it to reach. I did not wake up as someone who used to be Kody's mother. I woke up his mother without his body being here. There's a difference. Before anybody else knew the sound of his cry, color of his eyes, or what his face looked like when he was asleep, my body knew him. He was a life moving inside of me. I carried him into every room before anyone else could ever hold him. My body had already made room for Kody before the rest of the world even knew who he was. Then on July 30th, 2001, he took his first breath on earth, and they placed my son into my arms. I did not have to earn the word mother after that. I did not have to explain it or prove it. Kody was here, breathing against me, and I was his mother. For 23 years, I did not have to stop and name that truth. I was just his mother. I knew the sound of his voice. I knew the difference between him saying he was good and him actually being good. Could be growing into a man standing over me and still be my baby boy at the same time. Then on February 18th, 2025, every physical way I had knew for him to be his mother was torn away from me at once. And that's one of the things that people just don't really get, you know it? Like, sorry, take a break for a second. That's one of the things that people just really don't get, right? I was his mom, right? Before any of this. And it doesn't just like kind of just stop, right? It doesn't just like go away after you lose your child. It's still there, right? Every bit of every single solitary thing that you knew about your son, your child, was still there, right? So let me get back. Sorry, just had to take a break for a second. I had it going too fast. I had to slow it down for a second. Anyway, hopefully technical difficulties. All right. So then on February 18th, every physical way I had knew how to be his mother was torn away from me at once. The love did not go with him. The mother in me did not go quiet. It was left here, reaching toward his son I could no longer reach. People see that my son I lost from this earth, and they knew that it made me a grieving mother. But grief did not replace my motherhood. Grief grew out of it. I hurt this way because Kody is still my son, and I am still his mother. But he is no longer here for me to hold. Sometimes I can feel how uncomfortable the present tense makes people. They know how to talk about who Kody was. They know how to lower their voices and say I had a son, but had catches inside of me. I did not return my motherhood when I handed over his body. I did not leave it beside his urn. I did not become the mother of only the children people can still see. I have a son. His name is Kody. He is in heaven, and I am still his mother here. Saying it does not mean that I'm confused about death. It means that I'm not confused about my son. Knowing Kody is in heaven does not take the weight out of my arms. I believe he is safe with Jesus. I believe the deepest parts are healing. I believe the deepest healing reached him. I still want to hear his voice here, see his face, and watch the life he should still be living. When I asked Jesus to take care of my baby, I am not giving a place as my motherhood way. I am doing the only thing I can do when my hands cannot reach him. I am trusting Jesus with the son I still ache to hold. I can trust Jesus with Kody and hate the distance at the same time. Both come from being his mother. Before Kody, I lost my son from earth. The mothering that began inside of me could still reach him. If I worried, I could look at his face and ask him a question. If I needed him to know I loved him, I could say it and hear his answer. I could still do something with what I felt because Kody was here to answer me. Now, I still feel the same way, the same need to reach for him. But I cannot finish what my body has started. It's not just that I do not know what I want to do. I know exactly what I want. I want to put my hands on my son and know he is all right. I just cannot get that from here. That is why I say, it stays inside of me. I'm not empty of motherhood. I have more of it than I know what to do with. And my son is in a place that I cannot follow yet. Kody could be standing over me at 23 years old and still be my baby boy. I saw the young man. I respected the life he was trying to build, the choices that were his to make, and the parts of him that no longer belonged to childhood. But I could look at his grown hands and remember the little hands they used to be. I could see his child face behind the glasses. I could remember the weight of him before his feet ever touched the floor. One age never pushes the other one out. The baby, the little boy, the teenager, the young man, gathered inside of my motherhood every time Kody grew. I learned a new version of him without letting go of the version before. That is why baby never felt wrong of the word for him. That did not mean I could not see the young man standing in front of him. It meant I was the mother who had carried every age it took for him to get there. Sometimes I think about how many times I looked at Kody without knowing I was seeing something I would later beg to have back. Him standing in the doorway, him sitting close enough for me to reach him, his shoes on the floor, his glasses on his face, his hand holding an ordinary object. Nothing in the room told me to stop and take one more breath with my son still here. I watched Kody because I was his mother, but I did not know which ordinary moment I would later beg my mind not to lose. The world saw the age he reached. My motherhood held every age at once. It still does. There's a loneliness in that which does not mean anyone else loved Kody less. His sisters loved their brother. His family loved him, but no one else carried him before the world could even see him. No one else felt his first movement from inside her own body, and then watched every age gather into the young man he became. That is the part of being his mother no one can step inside with me. I am the only person who remembers Kody from that side of his beginning. Now I am still here carrying that beginning. Every year I was given with him after it, and the ending I was never supposed to outlive. I can be in a room with people who miss him and still feel alone in that exact place. It's not because their grief is smaller. It's because I am his mother, and there is no one else standing where I stood in his life. When I look at a photograph, I do not only see the young man frozen inside that frame. I can remember what happened before the picture, what his voice sounded like at the time, what I worried about, what made him laugh, what made a thought come next. I can see the little boy behind the young man in the future I believed was waiting in front of him. That is why his birthday does not only belong in the past. July 30th is not another date printed under Kody's name. It is not the day my son took. It is the day my son took his first breath on earth. It is the day I finally got to see my child. It is the day I finally got to see the child my body had already been carrying. Air moved into his lungs. Somebody placed him in my arms, and I became the mother of a son I could see and touch. Sorry. I did not know then how much of my own breathing would become connected to his. I did not know that 23 years later, I would be waiting for the sound of his voice after third shift, listening for a few words that told me my son was all right and let me breathe easier too. July 30th gave me Kody here. It gave me his first breath. Then all the breaths that came after it, the ordinary ones, the ones I never thought to count because mothers are not supposed to know when the counting will end. So when July 30th comes, I do not only remember that Kody was born. My whole body knows there should still be a birthday happening around my son. There should still be another year added to his age. There should still be food and laughter, a place, a mess, a face, and a cupcake that came toward him. His sister's birthday is only a few days before his, and those birthdays have always been connected in our family. They grew up sharing those days. One did not stop having a birthday because the other one could no longer sit beside her. On July 30th, 2026, when Kody should have turned 25, we still got the cupcakes. We still went out to eat. We still said his name. I could see the daughter at the table. I could feel the son who should have been there too. I was trying to be present for her birthday, while every part of me knew her brother's place was empty. I could not pretend that did not hurt her too. We kept the cupcake smashing tradition, but there was no Kody face to smash into it. I had to use his urn. Even writing that makes something in me pull back. A mother should not have to place a birthday cake beside the urn that holds her child. My hand should have been coming toward Kody while he tried to dodge me or laugh or got me back. There should have been icing on his face, frosting on his ear, the place where I kept his body. But I did not. But I did it because I am still his mother. I was not going to let his birthday pass, as the day that brought him into the world had become nothing but another day. July 30th will always matter to me. It is the day I first held the person who would call me Mama. It is the beginning of every year I was given here with Kody. For a while, I thought that was the only birthday I would have to learn how to carry differently. Then his little sister asked me a question. She wanted to know whether people had birthdays in heaven and what day they would celebrate them. I didn't have any prepared answer. I was her mother standing there trying to answer a question about her Bubba, while I was still trying to understand how heaven could be real and my son could be gone from this house. But I thought about it. I thought about July 30th, 2001, when Kody took his first breath here. And I thought about February 18th, 2025, when he took his last breath on earth and his first breath in heaven. That is when the two dates came together inside of me in a way they had not been before. If we called July 30th his birthday, because that is when he first breathed here, then February 18th is also a birthday. It is the day Kody took his first breath in his forever home. It is the first day he opened his eyes where pain could not follow him. It is the day when he was made completely free. I told her that if Kody and all of heaven were celebrating the day he took his first breath there, then I believe we should honor it here too. The words were true when I said them to her. They also hurt coming out of my mouth. February 18th, 2025 is the day that destroyed me. I cannot make that part gentle. It is a date I would tear out of a calendar if tearing it out could put Kody back in his body. It is the date my mind returns and starts trying to pull apart. It is the door I wanted to open sooner. It is the moment I wanted to reach before. It is every question about what I could have seen what I could have changed, and how a mother can love her child with everything in her and still not be able to take one more breath. There's no way for me to look at February 18th and see only one thing. Here, it is the day I lost my son physically. There, it is the day my son arrived alive in the presence of Jesus. The Bible is why I believe in heaven. The Bible is why I believe heaven did not receive Kody the way this house received the news. Here, I was standing in shock and horror. There, I believed my son opened his eyes with Jesus, safe, healed, and free. I am grateful my son made it to heaven. I need that to be true down in the deepest parts of me. But the very thing that meant celebration there felt like hell here without him. That is what split me open. The mother in me wants to honor every breath Kody has taken, even the first breath, even the first one I could not hear in a place I cannot yet see. That same mother would tear February 18th out of a calendar if doing it could place my son back in my arms. I can thank Jesus for holding my son and still ask why I could not keep holding him. I can be grateful and destroyed at the same time. Neither one of them makes the other less true. When February 18th, 2026 came, one full year after I lost Kody, I could not trade it as an anniversary of the worst day of my life. I also could not make it bright or easy just because I believed Kody was celebrating in heaven. We went to lunch, carrying both things up with us. We made Kody a place beside the chair with his jacket. I knew it was a jacket. I knew the sleeves were empty. I knew it could not lean toward me, talk, eat, or laugh. But those sleeves had held my son's arms. The jacket moved when he moved. Putting it there was one of the ways my hands knew to say, you still belong at this table. You are still part of this family. This day is still yours too. His peg game was there. It was such an ordinary thing, and that almost made it hurt worse. Before, it could just be a game Kody played. Now I had to help hold his place. We bought another one, and everyone signed it. So we would have something from his first heaven birthday to keep. I signed something for a birthday my son was having somewhere I could not go. This is the part that does not fit cleanly inside words like honor or celebrate. My hands were doing what they could do for Kody, but there was nothing I could hand him. I could bring his jacket. I could set it out. I could set a game out. I could sign my name. I could speak to him. I could tell him Mama loved him. But I could not watch him open anything. I could not see whether he liked what we did. I could not pull him into me and feel his breath. On July 30th, I honored the first breath I heard and the life I got to hold afterward. On February 18th, I honored the first breath I have to believe in by faith. One birthday began my life with Kody in my arms. The other began the part where I have to keep being his mother with him in my arms of Jesus. I am not celebrating that I lost my son from earth. I will never celebrate losing my son. I am honoring that I believe he lived through death and took his first breath in his forever home. That is why the word birthday still catches in my throat when I use it for heaven. When a child is born here, a mother gets the sound, the movement, the rise of the chest, the face that she has been waiting to see. Did not get any of that with Kody's first breath in heaven there. I did not get to hear it. I did not get to see his eyes open. I did not get to be the first face he saw. I have to believe in that breath without any of the things a mother usually gets when her child is born. No nurse placed him in my arms. Jesus received him into his. The 2 dates do not feel equal to me. July 30th, 2001 came with my son being placed in my arms. February 18th, 2025 came with me begging him to be placed back into them. I do not call February 18th Kody's first heaven birthday because I found a beautiful way to rename the day. I lost my son from earth. There is nothing beautiful to me about finding my son without breath. I call it that day because I believe the life of my son did not stop when his breathing here did. The day does not make the date gentle. Sometimes the date hurts in more directions than I know how to name. I count from both dates because mothers count before grief. I counted weeks until Kody was born. I counted feedings, steps, birthdays, school years, calls, and hours until he came home. Grief did not teach me to count my son. It changed what I am forced to count. Now I count the years from his first breath on earth, and I count the time since his first breath in heaven. I hate the second count. I am grateful there is still forever on the other side of it. Both dates belong to Kody's life, and I am still his mother on both. I do not need permission to say Kody's is my son in present tense, or to mark both days that hold his first breath. God gave me Kody to be his mother when his life here began. I did not stop being his mother when his earthly life ended. When Kody took his first breath in heaven, I did not stop being the woman who had carried him inside of her. I did not stop carrying every version of Kody I had ever been given here. I was his mother before anyone else sees him. I was his mother while he was here, where I could touch him. I was his mother on February 18th, 2025, when I found him and my whole world broke. I was his mother when I had to trust Jesus to do what my hands could no longer do. I was his mother when I placed the cupcake in his urn on July 30th. I was his mother when I carried his jacket into lunch and placed it beside the chair on February 18th, 2026. Those things do not make me his mother. They're what my hands did because I was already and still am. I was Kody's mother before there was a cupcake beside the urn, an empty jacket beside the chair, or a peg game full of signatures. I am still his mother when some of those things are the only things I can place in front of me for him. Nothing about being Kody's mother feels finished, resolved. I still wake up as his mother. The difference is now there is nowhere for all that mothering to go the way it used to. I cannot set it down, and I would not know how to stop being his mama, even if someone asked me to. There will never be a day when I can place entirely in the life I had before February 18th, 2025. He is not only someone I remember. He is my son now. He will be my son tomorrow. He will be my son when I am old, if God leaves me here that long. 23 is not the last year I am his mother. It is only the last age I was allowed to know my son on this earth. I will keep getting older here while Kody remains 23 in every picture and memory I can touch. I was supposed to watch his face change. I was supposed to see what kind of young man he became at 30, 40, and beyond. I was supposed to keep learning him. Not finished knowing my son. 23 years was not enough. There will still be things I wished I could have changed about his mind, things he would have laughed at, things he would have taught me, in parts of himself, if he had not grown into yet. I was supposed to meet every one of those versions too. That is another place where all this motherhood has nowhere to go. A mother expects her child to keep becoming, and she keeps learning him as he does. I am still facing the years ahead as Kody's mother, but I do not get to see a new age of Kody when they come. Instead, I carry every age I was given and grieve every age I was not. July 30th and February 18th will keep coming back every year. One will always carry the first breath I heard. The other will carry the breath I never heard, but believe Kody took with Jesus. I will not pretend those dates feel the same. I will not pretend heaven's celebration makes this house feel less empty. I will be grateful that my son made it to heaven, and I will still be destroyed by what his being there means here without him. And I have to carry both because I'm his mother, because I did not become Kody's former mother when he took his first breath there. He is still my son, and I am still his mother. So that was chapter 70. And just for all the people that keep asking me, right? All the people that keep asking me to go over things, that are scared to talk to me about things. For all the people that just think motherhood ends, right? For all the people that would rather just ignore me, not scared to talk about my son. That's what some people don't get. I'm still his mom, right? A lot of people are scared to talk about the child you lost. They don't get it. I know people just get, I don't know, uneasy, I suppose you would say, when you go to talk about a child that's not here anymore. You don't want to bring up bad feelings. Listen, you're not going to bring up anything, okay? I love each and every one of y'all. I really do. You're not going to bring up anything to hurt me. You're not going to bring up anything to make me feel sad, okay? You could talk about Kody. You can talk about my son. You can tell me memories that you had. You can send me pictures, for the love of God, right? Nobody is going to make me feel bad about talking about my son. What hurts is when you don't. My son had a birthday a few days ago. Yeah, I got minimum happy birthday Kodys, right? Minimum happy birthday Kodys. Like, people were scared to tell me happy birthday for my son. I know they're all, I don't know what to say. You know what you can say? Happy birthday, right? Because it was the day I got to hold my son, and that cannot be taken away. I don't know if anybody's seen it or whatnot, but I made a birthday slideshow of smashing of the cupcakes, because that was our tradition on there every year with my oldest and him. There was like 4 days apart, a few days apart. Hers is 27th, his is the 30th. And every year we did the cupcake smashing. It was so much fun. It was so funny. So we had to do it. And we used his urn, right? Use what we had to use, right? Because he's always going to be here. I'm always going to celebrate him. So people, stop making things awkward. Just talk. That's all I say. But anyway, enough of that. That was one of my chapters. Just about there with the rest of the book, which is something that I felt like I wanted to kind of read. Sorry about the intro. It kind of forgot to cut the volume button up. I hope I cut it up this time. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for following. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff, because the more people that get to see this may be able to see kind of a broken mess of somebody. Because this is every day, right? This is real life. These are the things that people that are really hurting, that may have lost someone that you know, actually go through. And it's hard. It is hard to do this alone. It is really hard. In a lot of these places, I am alone, right? A lot. But that's why I'm here. I'm talking to y'all. I'm talking to the world. To anybody who stopped long enough to listen. So, because you got to get it out. And I keep saying that. I make so much stuff for my son. Probably look like a psychopath. I really don't care. But you got to get it out. Help someone. If you know someone who has lost a child, someone close to them, don't be afraid to talk to them. Call them. Reach out to them. Send them a picture. If you have a picture in your phone, don't be afraid to send it. Send it to them. You know how hard and how long that they have just been looking for something, and then out of nowhere, you have a picture of somebody they love in their phone that they've never ever seen before. And the kind of joy, yeah, it hurts, but the kind of joy that brings to somebody who's never seen a picture of the person they love show up out of nowhere, that does something, right? It helps the heart. So if you have something, know something, remember something, whoever is hurting that you know, send it to them. Talk to them. Say their name. That's all we want, right? We want every single piece of anything, no matter how small or painful you may think it is. We still want it because we're still looking. But anyway, that was just a side note rant. All right, guys. Like I said, comment down below wherever the thingamajiggerbob is. I don't even know. Right here. I'm backwards, so anyway, my head hurts. Comment down below, like, subscribe, share, get the word out. Definitely comment, right? And if you've been like, how do you celebrate your kids, right? How do you celebrate your kids that are here no more? Do people like think you're a crazy lunatic like me, right? Comment, give me a little bit of hope. I know I'm not alone. I definitely know I'm not alone. All right, guys. See you next time. Thanks for tuning in.